this week's episode of Work the Left Side. I'm joined by Scotty Rawk. Dude, how's it going, man? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, dude. I'm sound. How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm all good. I'm happy to have you on, dude. I don't know if obviously people who watch this know your name has come up various times through various other people. You're obviously someone that I was aware of and a fan of. Not just through your wrestling skills, but just I've said it to you before. Your general awesomeness as a human being. You're someone that I've wanted to chat to for a while. So yeah, man, I'm happy. I'm finally getting to talk to you. And
I appreciate that. I really do. Honestly, it's super flattering. Like anytime my name sort of crops up in conversation, or my name is the first name to come out of someone's mouth when it's talking of like from workers' point of view specifically, and obviously like getting a hell of a lot of like love from the fans and stuff at the minute. Like it genuinely is. It's super flattering.
I mean, obviously, RJ bigged you up. You guys had that semi-final match a few months back now on the way to the world title. And then, yeah, obviously Alan Kay as well. It's another one that's name dropped you, sort of saying. And I think what it is I think a lot of the positivity has come from how you've just evolved physique wise, work rate right, everything like that. You're just looking more and more the part kind of thing.
I appreciate that. I really do. I think it was said to me more recently in regards to, so it was actually my tattoo artist. I was having some work done, and he said that I kind of almost look like the full package now, and I was like, oh, like that's super nice. He was like, no, dude. He's like, if you were an action figure, you have got a look. He was like, if you were an action figure, I'd be picking you up off the shelf. Like you've got such a unique look about you, like the tattoos, the hair. He was like, it's so marketable, and I guess that's kind of makes marketing yourself a lot easier as well. He was like you're so unique compared to like Johnny Blue Pants' figure. No offense to Johnny Blue Pants, you know what I mean?
Lovely guy, but yeah, he's not marketable. So, but yeah, spot on. And I've broken my cardinal rule as well, because I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, I've just I started doing some Scotty Rawk artwork earlier, and I swore down recently that I wasn't going to draw any other wrestler that had a shed load of tattoos. I was like, no, I've had enough. Not enough drawing as it is, and then I'm drawing drawings within drawings. And yeah, dude, I've broken the rule for you. So I'm cursing. But
the hard work's appreciated, but honestly, I can imagine it is such a graft.
It's but yeah, man, that's obviously looking through. And you've got some nice pieces now. I've got to say, I'm obviously a fan of ink and stuff, and I've got my own. So
I mean, they certainly hurt enough. I should hope that they're all right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things where people talk about it. It always gets me when people sort of say, "Oh, does it hurt?" Like, dude, the dragging a needle across your skin it's not going to tickle. It's probably not as bad as you think it is, but yeah, it definitely has a sensation depending on where. What's your most painful one? Then I'm going to sidebar into tattoos briefly here.
So you literally took the words out of my mouth. When people say things like that, the first thing I say is, "Well, it doesn't tickle." It literally feels like wet fire. Like that is the best way to describe it. It is like wet fire. For a very, very long time, I always said my kneecaps were my most painful tattoos. And not necessarily like the kneecap itself. It's the sort of inside.
Corner of the unique, yeah.
Yeah, but it's this bit in here, like almost borderline inside kneecap, inner thigh area. Yeah, that sucks. But I think it has been quite marginally taken over by just having my full back done. Every single time I go for like a full back session, like it was 5 hours of line work. It was 3 sessions of like 3 hours of shading, and now I've had like 2 sessions, one of 5 hours and one of about 3.5 hours of color. And each time I've come away and been like, I want to die. Like, this is the worst. I think my first colour shade, first colour session, the 5-hour one, I had tattoo flu for about 2 days. Like,
Wow.
I felt like I was so ill, just because of like it's trauma, isn't it? It's putting your body through a hell of a lot. I think it's the longest sit-ins. Honestly, I think it is. I'm fine up to about 3 hours. I think 3 hours is around my limit, and then 3 to 4, I'm like, yeah, I can feel this now. I'm getting fatigued. I'm getting tired. Everything's starting to ache a little bit more. I'm a little bit more sensitive. And then 4 to 5 hours, I'm just like, get off me. Stop.
Yeah, I think my longest session was my hands jerk on my hand out for like 5 hours, and like that last hour was just. I don't know if you think it's the tattooing. It's the wiping. It sounds daft, but it's like when he's rinsing it off and wiping it. Even the wiping starts to feel like sandpaper, and you're just like, dude, stop, seriously. But shout out to my other half though. She's got a thigh piece, and she was sat there for like 8-9 hours in one go, and yeah.
I think the longest I've done, I think, is about 5.5, and that was like doing all of the line work in one go on my back, like full back piece. And it was purely because my artist turned around and he was like, "We're doing the line work, whether I have to tie you to this bed or not, because I am not messing around with the stencil again." And I was like, fair. You know what? Fair enough.
Definitely. Right. We'll get the generic box kit. Obviously, growing up, was you a wrestling fan as a kid? Did you get into it because you was a fan, or did you get into it because you knew people who were doing it? Was it something that you thought, you know what, I could smash this, or did you fall into it by accident?
It's quite mad actually, because quite literally last night I saw something on Twitter, and it was a little video clip of, it was like, who remembers this on a Friday night, and it was the end of Cartoon Network transitioning into TNT TV and WCW Nitro.
Yeah.
So it was something that me and my mum would sit when I was maybe 2-3 years old, and we'd watch like Cow and Chicken, we'd watch Cat Dog, we'd watch Courage the Cowardly Dog, and then it'd all of a sudden it'd be Buff Bagwell, Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, Goldberg, Rey Mysterio Jr. Like it was incredible, because they are, at the end of the day, they were and still are the real life superheroes, the larger than life characters, the big flamboyant costumes, the genetic freaks. Like it was insane.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's something then you basically tapped into at a very young age. Then it was kind of planted in you, and then obviously sort of it grew as you grew on. What was it like when you got into it? There was there many schools near you? Was it a 2-hour trek to the nearest school? I know it seems like every town's got a school nowadays, but I know that only really happened over the last few years.
Yeah, so I was quite fortunate actually. So obviously I kind of didn't fall out of love with wrestling, but kind of fell out of the loop, sort of when you're 11, 12, and wrestling's not cool, and you go into secondary school and you've got to try and be cool. You don't want to be like the nerdy kid that watches wrestling because it's fake, right? So I actually started doing martial arts when I was around 9 or 10.
Okay, cool.
And it was a freestyle martial arts syllabus, heavily inspired by the teachings and syllabus of Bruce Lee.
Oh, you couldn't. Oh, I'm sorry, mate. I used to have this style. Bollocks! I'm actually drawing a blank here. Remember the name of his style? What was it?
Honestly, not off the top of my head. It started out as freestyle kickboxing, and then slowly, as you sort of progressed within it, it really opened up into more like a freestyle martial arts. Are you talking Jeet Kune Do?
Jeet Kune Do, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, that's basically
what's
been made his style, wasn't it? Jeet Kune Do.
Jeet Kune Do, but this syllabus touched on Jeet Kune Do, Wing Chun, a screamer, Kali, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, a little bit of taekwondo, a little bit of bagua. it was a really like an eclectic mix of everything. But I got my first dan black belt through the Amateur Martial Arts Association in Manchester when I was 16.
Wow.
And then I started teaching martial arts at my local kickboxing club until the head coach unfortunately ended up finding himself in a car accident and closed the club down. And he has been like, I think he's got permanent brain damage. It was quite a nasty sort of time in his life. So we kind of shut the club down. It was like with a heavy heart, because I felt like, obviously I felt sad for him because he's been the one that sort of took me through everything for 6-7 years. I felt bad for his family, but also was at a little bit of a loose end myself. And then I kind of fell back into love with wrestling around the same time that all happened. So it was when WWE released the game WWE 13,
right,
and my local game were paid a local wrestling promotion to come into the town centre, set up a wrestling ring, and do matches on the hour, every hour, to like push the new wrestling game.
Wow.
So me being like a grubby little 13-year-old carrying my skateboard through town, I was like, there's a wrestling ring there. What is going on?
Yeah.
So came back to watch every match on the hour, took the leaflets, took the flyers that were like, oh, we're running a show tomorrow just around the corner, you should come and check it out. And I was like, cool, I will do. And then it was sort of from there that at that show they were handing out leaflets for like, do you want to be a pro wrestler? And I was like, of course, who doesn't?
Why would you not?
And that was my local promotion. So I'm from Grimsby, and that was Grimsby Wrestling Alliance. For a long time, it was GWA, but again, that ended up folding after I'd been there a couple of years, which again kind of left a lot of the local workers, the local talent, the local trainees at a bit of a loose end, and thus BWR was born. And there was a good core team, a good core family of people that sort of came together, banded together, and were like, we aren't going to let wrestling in this area die, because we had quite a decent loyal fan base.
Yeah.
But obviously it was a very long time before any kind of training school was set up. So then it was a case of I'd travel to Hull to train at NGW, and I went to university in Liverpool. So I trained at Fighting Spirit under Zach Gibson and James Drake. Through lockdown, the first training school that was open was Manchester. It was Future Shock. So twice a week I used to drive 2.5 hours to Manchester to spend a full day training with those guys, just because I love being in the ring, and I feel like I can't be without it now. Like it's really ingrained into the fibers of who I am, I guess.
No, that's quality. I mean, obviously you named NGW, Future Shock, Fighting Spirit. You know, I mean, I think you'd be hard pushed to. Obviously, there's a lot of good schools out there. Pursuit, obviously, being one of the newer ones. Yeah. But NGW, obviously, I know I kind of class it being one of the top 5. Not for me, one of the 5 pillars of British wrestling back in like the mid 2015, 2016. Obviously, had that NGW.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like it's any promotion that has kept its head above the waves, specifically through these last few years, has done a hell of a job, and has really solidified themselves. Have been like, you know what, we're here, we're not going anywhere, and we're making a bit of a statement. So they've really stood their ground. I know that NGW no longer have a training school, but they are still a promotion that are running. So the local training school now is actually still in Grimsby, and it's Evo Academy. And it's Nathan Cruz, that was the old NGW coach, that is now the Evo coach. So I'm under Nathan Cruz's wing a little bit.
You can't go much wrong. I'm obviously guessing Matt turns up occasionally as well to give advice. You know, those two. Obviously, you mentioned Statkinson, James Drake as well, working in Liverpool. Obviously, puts you on the doorstep of TNT, which is another top-notch promotion in the UK at the minute. So, and then obviously you do TNT. You got OPW around that area. You sort of said you got the BWR. Obviously, you had guys like RJ. Obviously, I said you had the match with. He's working. It was BWR with RJ, wasn't it? If I'm correct.
It was Pro Wrestling East, so it was actually a southern promotion in Cambridge. So I'm fairly regular at the promotions that you've just mentioned. I've been a BWR original since day one. Coming out of lockdown, TNT kind of took me in, and even though I only lived there for sort of 2 years through uni, I almost get like the hometown boy reaction from the fans at TNT. Whether that's just the sort of the vibe I give off, the alternative sort of little greb kid that really fits sort of the TNT Extreme and Ignition shows. But yeah, I've been a staple part of TNT's Ultra X division over the last couple of years. I've worked OPW, Odyssey, Catch in Manchester when they were around. They were absolutely phenomenal, and I really hope that they make a comeback. Obviously, a regular at Tidal and NGW. But it's been, as I say, the last sort of year or so that I've started to venture out a little bit more south. And it was Pro Wrestling East that I wrestled RJ in the semi-finals for the heavyweight belt.
Well, as I said, he had nothing but kind words. So I don't think you're going to be short of a booking down in that town or around that area in the future as well. Because, let's say it speaks for itself. And you got people like that. Obviously, putting a kind word in, I don't think people are going to hesitate to, offer you a hand and be like, "Yeah, come down. We want you on the show," kind of thing.
Yeah, so, and that in itself is almost the biggest compliment I can receive. Being able to work with people that have been on the scene for years and years, since potentially even before I was able to, perfect a suplex. You know what I mean? Since before I was able to even put on a pair of knee pads. I mean, I know RJ. He's been around like 15 plus years.
If I remember correctly, 2003, 2004, I think it was, yeah.
So we're looking at like 20 odd years that RJ's been around. I thought it was around that. So being able to work with him and wow him, like to impress RJ to the point where he wants to put me over, he wants to put my name forward and things like that. That in itself is the biggest compliment I feel I can receive, and I have got all the time in the world for RJ because I think he is literally like the southern uncle of British wrestling.
Dude is awesome. I do kind of class him as again, like I was talking about NGW and stuff like that. There's a handful of people that I kind of class as the OGs of the modern era of British wrestling. Anybody who watches previous episodes will have heard me say like RJ, Styx, Kirby, Haskins, Cruz, Myers. Those guys were like the forerunners that relaunched British wrestling to where it is now, kind of thing, and helped you guys have something to work with, kind of thing.
100%, and being able to work with those guys now, like whether it's in a coaching training facility, whether it's in a show like space where like I was lucky enough to run a program or a storyline, whatever you want to call it, with Haskins over at TNT when he was fresh out of Ring of Honor. Yeah. So that was a huge learning experience for me. And yeah, I feel like we had a sequence of maybe 3 or 4 matches. And yeah, just every single time I was like, it was almost like he was dropping little nuggets of gold and I was just picking them up and eating them.
Yeah. I'll call him a friend of the show because the dude's awesome. I've spoken to him a few times. RPD. I know you guys have been in the ring together in Odyssey. It was Odyssey OPW, wasn't it?
Yeah. I actually had RPD's first match at Odyssey, and let me tell you, like the Odyssey crowd absolutely eat him up.
Yeah, it's definitely unique in the transition between from boxing to wrestling. I think it's another kind of character. No, oh, not character, because he is who he is, kind of thing. It's legit. But it kind of gives him something to stand out on. But I know he's always had nice things to say as well. And anytime I mention you on Twitter, he's always one of the first to like. So again, you've definitely made an impression there, dude. You mentioned sorry, lost my train of thought. TNT Ignition, their open weight, or they're kind of obviously. What's the TNT light heavyweight division called?
It's the Ultra X division.
That's it. I was looking through your cage match before, and I was noticed you're not. You've had a few titles. I've noticed you had a couple. You've held the. Was it their lightweight title you held, or was it somebody else's?
Yeah. So coming out of lockdown, I really sort of came into my own as a singles wrestler.
Yeah.
So I was the TNT Ultra X champ for about 6 months, and lost that, dropped that belt to Haskins. And I feel like if you're going to drop it to anyone, and if anyone's going to show that they are like legit, it is Mark Haskins. You don't get much more legit than that. So as much as it was a bit of sweet moment, it was a bit of sweet pill to swallow. I think it definitely, I took a few lessons away from that. But following that, I became BWR Cruiserweight champion, and I was BWR Cruiserweight champion for something like 352 days before the last BWR No Gods No Masters show, where Leon Slater took it in a 4-way.
Again, nothing to be sort of. You got two top names. Obviously, you're in there. How does it feel? Obviously, I know to people outside, they'll presume like the titles, don't mean anything, because obviously wrestling's fake, as they would say. Obviously, I would like to sort of say most fans know and appreciate if somebody's given the belt, they know it's because they deserve it, or the company sees something special in them, and they kind of want to give them that push. I think
that's what it comes down to. I think when I won the TNT Ultra X belt and when I won the BWR Cruiserweight belt, it was almost just an overwhelming sense of affirmation that I was doing something right, to the point where two of the biggest indie promotions in the country wanted me to be the face of their cruiserweight division. And it is emotional. So it was real tears, and it was like lump in my throat as I raise a belt and look around. You know what I mean? It's there's nothing fake about that, and there's nothing fake about what we do and what you see and what emotions we portray, because like, as I say, I'm very much wear my heart on my sleeve where that's concerned. So having that positive affirmation from not only like a booker, but an entire company and an entire crowd and an entire fan base online and in person to get behind you and be like, you know what? Yeah, this guy's holding one of our belts. He is the face of this division. He's one of the faces of the company, and we are proud to push him forward. It blows my mind. It really does. Because at the end of the day, I'm just some young lad from Grimsby that's living his childhood dream, and I'm very, very grateful that I get to do what I get to do. 100%. It's that affirmation. It really is.
It shows genuine trust. It's an actual pure trust. That's how I would see it. Somebody's putting that on you, kind of thing. They trust you 100%, and like, right, yeah, go. That's it. So for me, genuine. That's a genuine sense of accomplishment, and I say it's validation. It's you're good at what you're doing because you've obviously earned that trust and respect.
Yeah, it is that validation. Because it's not just, oh, Scotty's a nice lad. We'll put the belt on him. It's belief in my ability, belief in my performance, belief in my like character, my brand, my person, everything about me to be like, he is going to be a staple point of our company. Like I say, there's nothing fake about what we do and what we portray. Sometimes things might be turned up to 11 or 12 and dialed up a little bit in regards to sort of these big wacky characters that you see, but at the end of the day, what we are doing in that ring is real. It is real emotion, and it is a real live action stunt show.
Yeah. Shit hurts. So you can't deny, what you guys do freaking hurts. I mean, obviously the amount of injuries you guys pick up, more than proves that point. I'll sort of pull it into the sort of local. Obviously, saw you at TGW against a slightly larger opponent than yourself, BA. I was speaking to JC a few weeks ago. We did TG Tidal month, not Tidal, True Grit month last month. Obviously, I had JC on, and we was talking about. He's a massive fan of old school WWE, as myself. So we was talking about I think we was talking about the Shawn Michaels Mankind match from In Your House '96.
Yeah.
At the end of that, it kind of came up, and he kind of like a light bulb went off, and he was like, "That was my inspiration for putting Scotty against BA."
Yeah, unfortunately, BA had COVID, so it was his tag partner Jack Turner.
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, I was exactly the same. I watched wrestling as a kid to see Rey Mysterio. I was a massive Rey Mysterio fan, still am. I was a massive Jeff Hardy fan. And it was always the spectacle of David and Goliath, wasn't it? It was Rey Mysterio and Brock Lesnar. It was Rey Mysterio and The Undertaker. It was Rey Mysterio and the Great Khali. So yeah, it really was. I really do love. I love being thrown around by dudes that are like twice my size, because that is why I watched wrestling as a kid.
That's it. Apologies to Jack. Sorry, I just look at that many graphics. Look at that much stuff. I just had BA implanted in my head. Obviously, it was Jack Turner. Apologies for that. Well, yeah. I think it's just like say it's the ultimate. I mean, it's a story as old as the Bible kind of thing. It's like say it's David versus Goliath. I mean, any wrestling fan can obviously remember if they watched WCW, Rey Mysterio beating Kevin Nash, and they like the surprise element of that, or Maven beating the Undertaker. The sort of slightly smaller guy being the newbie versus the veteran. So yeah, that was. How did you enjoy working True Grit Jizzix? I think it was your debut, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, certainly post COVID. I think it was. I think JC might have mentioned it, but I think there was a rumble back in York in like middle of or early 2019. But yeah, it was amazing to be back at True Grit and to make a proper establishing sort of debut and be like, you know what, this is me. I've done a hell of a lot of growing over the last 4 years. I'm not the same person I was, a year and a half ago, let alone the same person I was 4 years ago. So this is me, and being able to bring that to the table and really sort of know who I am, know what I'm about, and portray that on a grand scale, because that venue in Leeds is stunning. Again, I think it's about that trust that a promoter and fan base put into you. Plus, it was nice to see some faces that I hadn't actually seen for a very long time. I hadn't seen Jack Turner since 2019. I hadn't seen Wing Commander Nash since 2019. And I always describe a wrestling show as, when you go to a christening or a wedding and you've got this big collection of distant cousins and relatives that you've not seen for years. Mate, I get to do that every other weekend, every week, in and out. I turn up to a show and it's all high fives and handshakes and big hugs and kisses on the cheek, and it's, oh, how have you been? How's everything going? It really is. It feels like I get to see my distant family, depending on which promotion, at least like once a month.
That's awesome, because what's nice to hear, you know, that's how it is for majority, you know, sort of backstage. Because I think obviously, I think it's nice for the fans to know like you guys kind of enjoy each other's company, helping each other, sort of like, you know, stand on each other's shoulders and bigging each other up, kind of thing. It's only the drama queens out there that kind of want that drama, or you know, would sort of want to hear about locker room turmoil, kind of thing. I like to hear you guys get on and you just all there pushing each other forward, kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I like to try and keep my nose out, keep my nose clean, and stay out of any kind of drama. Because I mean, obviously, like at the end of the day, we are just people, and you can't get on with everyone. But in that sort of environment, you can at least be professional with everyone, and you can be polite, and you can be courteous, and you can be kind, and that's all that's ever expected, really. But yeah, I'm lucky enough to be one of the guys that I feel does seem to get along with the majority, if not all.
Oh, it's just because you're so goddamn lovable. Obviously, you mentioned Nash there. Yeah, I can imagine Nash being a character in any given locker room that he would kind of be in.
Honestly, like when you see Wing Commander Nash, that is a classic case of like that is not an act.
Oh
like,
yeah, I know Nathan.
That is Nash both in and out of the ring, and he is a brilliant human being.
I had him on the show a few months ago. I've known Nathan like for about 10 plus years, kind of thing. So I know he's definitely he's my go-to guy when I've got an issue with the Switch and stuff like that. So if I ever have any gaming console issues, Nash is the guy to tap up. He's a massive gamer, kind of thing. So yeah, that venue though, like you sort of said, left bank for True Grit. It's unique. I like the whole dynamic of it all. Obviously, you've True Grit. I think with True Grit, they've just crowned the women's champion. I would think down the line they've obviously got the Pure Grit title. Is that something, given your martial arts, you know, background and stuff, would you be a bit more inclined to go for some 3-round ground and pound wrestling?
I could hold my own.
Yeah.
I feel like I could definitely hold my own. One of the best pure wrestlers in the country, got to be Chris Ridgway. Yes. And I had an absolute blast wrestling Ridgway at Catch in Manchester. And I think we did 25 minutes, and it was hard hitting, it was leady. And yeah, again, some of the things that I took away from that match sort of still stick with me today. But more recently, I had a submissions match at Tidal with Vusic.
Yes.
And coming away from that really sort of solidified to me that, you know, I can hang. Like I'm primarily a cruiserweight, a high flyer, a hard hitter, sort of a scrappy little underdog. But when it comes to fighting tooth and nail, like I can do ground and pound, I can put in the groundwork, I can do sub, I can do tech. Like, not to sort of toot my own horn too much, but I do feel like at the minute I am firing on all cylinders. Yep. And I can really deliver, no matter what the stipulation, no matter what the match type. I really do feel like I'm confident enough in my own ability now, that yeah, if I'm put in any kind of situation that may seem foreign to me, that I'll come out with my head held high and be like, you know what, like it's just another accolade to add that I can do this.
Yeah, man, that's definitely a sort of a dream match. I would like to sort of, if or when you return to True Grit, I think that would definitely be one that could be interesting, because I know sort of like they're always obviously looking to insert fresh faces into like the Pure Grit division, because it is kind of a very unique division for True Grit, in the sense of obviously you got the rounds, and I know they kind of want to make it shine a little bit. So it wouldn't surprise me if the next series on YouTube was focused around the Pure Grit title. I don't know if you're aware of obviously True Grit doing the thing on YouTube where they're trying to make it like a series of 6 episodes before each big show.
Yeah, True Grit TV. Yeah, I've seen some of the episodes. I tried to keep updated. I try and keep an eye on like what's happening locally and what's happening in the scene that I'm a part of. Because as I say, like unless we thrive together, we aren't really thriving. You know what I mean? I feel like there's been a hell of a lot of sort of in the old school mentality of like using other people to, you know, tread on to get a leg up. Whereas now I feel like specifically over the last, like coming out of lockdown, there really does feel like a sense of camaraderie, a real sense of community. And yeah, I feel like if we're all winning together.
That's it. If the spotlight's on the business, it shines on all of you. So
Yeah,
do you think it's like it's just a sense of appreciation, you know, that you're back, you're in front of the crowds? I kind of like for a majority of you guys, you know, you didn't have that sensation for like 12 months or 18 months, and then you get it back and it's like, you know what, this is freaking awesome. I'm going to appreciate it a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, man. It was difficult. Like, I mean, I've always been a performer, so I've been in bands since I was sort of 13 or 14. Just playing little pop punk covers at my local like youth centre, skate park, jam, all the way through to like doing BBC live lounge stuff with a band that I'm in now, Intercity. And yeah, it was so not only from a wrestling point of view, but from a musical point of view as well. There is nothing like being on stage. There is nothing like performing. There is nothing like being in a wrestling ring. And so to have that taken away from you, to have as I say, the core fibers of your being sort of stripped down and almost stolen from you, it really did have a big effect. It really, really did. So yeah, coming out of it, kicking and screaming, we were all like, we're all here together. We aren't going to take this for granted. And yeah, we're just going to absolutely nail every single aspect of the performance that we get to do, be it playing gigs, be it live lounges, be it training for wrestling shows, be it wrestling. Yeah, and I do feel like a lot of people have realised that putting on a great wrestling match is all well and good, but creating a great wrestling show as a whole is the bigger picture and why we're all there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely did. You know, one great match isn't potentially may not make the audience come back, you know, for the next one. If you put on a great show, without hesitation, people are coming back, you know, to the next show kind of thing. So, and if there's another show, obviously there's another booking and so on kind of thing.
Definitely.
So, well, talking of sort of comebacks and things like that, I'll kind of use that as a segue into 1PW after
it's almost like you're professional.
I'm really not. I'm just totally winging it, dude, if I'm honest. But I saw the chance and I was like, you know what, here we go. Yeah, so obviously the whole point of Work the Left Side this month is to kind of, it doesn't need it. I think it's sold like 1,300 seats already for the return to the Dome after, you know, the comeback. But yeah, 1PW month at Work the Left Side. Obviously spoke to Haskins last week. He's in the hunt for the heavyweight title, and you yourself, you know, you could potentially be crowned the first open weight champion. How's it feel, man? Just being put straight in, you know, to that 6-way match. It's a big 6-way as well, dude. Some of those names,
dude. Honestly, there are no words. So the big build up for the return of 1PW, A New Twist of Fate in October, it felt like British Wrestling Christmas.
Yeah.
Like it was more than just a show, it was an experience. Like the whole weekend, and I was so lucky to be a part of sort of the moving cogs, not only like a performer on the show, but some of the stuff like behind the scenes and stuff as well. It really, really did feel special. And I think 17 years after they started as a company, to come back on the exact same date and to smash the show out of the park the way they did, like to sell out Doncaster Dome. I don't think there's been a show on that scale for at least 10 years.
Yeah, about at least 10 years. I don't think anybody else really managed to do it consistently since 1PW stopped around that area, kind of thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, like, I didn't get to experience the first round of 1PW, because if you'd have told, so what was it, 2005 when 1PW started, so I'd have been 8 years old. If you'd have told 8-year-old Scotty Rawk that AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Frankie Kazarian, Christopher Daniels were all wrestling 45 minutes away from my house, like Doncaster is not far from Grimsby, you'd have absolutely blown my mind. But unfortunately, I just don't think we realised that there was even a British scene back then. For me, when I was 8, it was watching Raw and SmackDown catch-ups on a Saturday morning, and then turning over to what was Bravo and watching TNA.
That's it. Yeah, man, like I said, that was the mind-blowing thing, because I was a bit older. Yeah, I was watching Impact on Bravo and stuff like that, and then once a month going to Doncaster, I got to see Styles, Daniels, and Joe basically have that triple threat match that had main evented a TNA pay-per-view a month or so earlier, right there, Dome kind of thing, and it be on par with the pay-per-view match. It was absolutely mind-blowing, and some of the names that they had. Yeah, and obviously, they had a good run first time. Hopefully this time, it's going to be much healthier, much longer, and they'll just absolutely smash it.
Yeah, some of the names they brought in, but also some of the names that they sort of found and they started. I mean, Spud, Rockstar Spud was a 1PW original. Pac was a 1PW original. Haskins, Corey Graves, he was
SJ. Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah. Like, they were all sort of unknown before 1PW gave them that elevation and gave them that rub of working with people like Spud and Abyss, Pac and AJ Styles, and that really paved a way for the British scene of today. I mean, if you are a British wrestler and you have not seen Pac versus AJ Styles, then I just highly recommend going and seeing it. I'm not going to turn around and be like, then you aren't even a student. But like, I would 100%. It blows my mind that is literally a match that happened on our doorstep. But yeah, I think bringing some of those originals back as well for their first show back. I mean, having Christopher Daniels come back to the Dome, and
Team Shag was obviously
the Team Shag reunion, absolutely brilliant. I think D'Lo Brown also played a part in original 1PW, so to have him come out and give Matt Myers one of the biggest sky highs I think I've ever seen, just ridiculous. And I think moving forward, I know I mentioned, obviously, you wanted to talk about the openweight championship, this 6-man scramble. Frankie Kazarian.
Yeah.
Frankie Kazarian was an idol when I was a kid. As I say, when I was sort of 8-9 years old, TNA, Impact on Bravo, watching Frankie Kazarian, watching his style and watching him really just create the X Division. Like, he was one of the core elements that made the X Division what it was. And for me, the X Division made TNA. The X Division is what should have been. Well, at the end, the X Division was the biggest cruiserweight scene on the planet. Like, the X Division of TNA is what the cruiserweight division of the WWE should have been.
Yeah. It was on par with WCW 97, 98 kind of thing, when you had your Eddies, your Rays, Menkos, Jericho.
Yeah, man.
Obviously, the X Division at its peak, I'll say, was when it was main eventing pay-per-views with Joe, Daniels, Styles. And like you say, and behind them you had Kaz, Petey Williams, Amazing Red, just so many other names, kind of thing. It was an absolute belter of George. But the thing is, as well, the counterpoint was you kind of had like Jeff Jarrett and other people in the main event. So I think again, it was very much circa WCW, where the main event was all right, but give me the X division, or give me the cruiserweight story matches.
The undercard, I think the undercard again, as you say, WCW cruiserweight division is some of my favourite things to sit and watch. It's some of my favourite things to sit and study. As much as I say I love the big man, small man matches, I think when it comes to actually being a student of the game, there's nothing better than going and watching Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero. There's nothing better than going and watching Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Jericho. Eddie Guerrero being my all-time favourite wrestler. But I think even an underrated talent that I feel like gets forgotten about a little bit is Billy Kidman.
Oh, Kidman, yes.
Billy Kidman was absolutely phenomenal, and some of the things that he did with the Guerrero family. I think he had like a series of 3 matches with Ray as well. Just absolutely phenomenal. And again, just they all did their part to put smaller guys on the map, and that's all I can ask to try and do for the British scene. So yeah, coming to the open weight, you've got myself, you've got Robbie X, you've got Leo Rush, Kazarian, Callum Newman, and Luke Jacobs. And I can tell you it's going to be fast paced. I can tell you it's definitely going to be hard hitting and 100% high flying. But just to be able to share that space, to share that ring, to be stood in between the ropes with someone that I idolized as a kid, to be stood there with Frankie Kazarian is an insane thought. And it's 10 days away.
Yep. So butterflies started yet?
Yeah. I'll try and play it cool, but yeah, definitely. And I think standing in the ring, like not only with Frankie Kazarian, but like someone of the caliber of Leo Rush, who is really like taking the indies by storm. He's doing some awesome stuff at MLW right now, and he's constantly toing and froing between the UK and the US. Robbie X, who is, and I'm not just saying this because like he has become quite a very close friend of mine. Robbie X's work rate, Robbie X's in-ring talent, his athletic ability, everything about Robbie X is second to none. Like he is the best cruiserweight in the world, and it is criminal that he has not been snatched up yet.
Yeah. I think it's someone that I'd liken to yourself, where up until a couple of years ago, it's like the penny dropped, and all of a sudden his physique changed. He was never obviously in bad shape, but also if you follow him on socials, like every day there's like a PT session, there's in the gym. He's just becoming ripped, kind of thing, and his legs are like his thighs are crazy big. I think it's like again a couple of years ago, penny dropped. And he just went up. He leveled up, basically.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of the outlook on wrestling and life in general that Robbie has is so refreshing. Like talking to him sometimes is literally like a breath of fresh air, because he's such a positive and driven person. Nothing seems like it's too much for him. He's always cool, calm, and collected. And he's just such a fun dude to be around. Never a dull moment. Although he did recommend doing the Insanity workouts, and I managed to dig out an old box set of the Insanity home DVDs, and I can happily say that I agree with Robbie. Fuck Sean Tees, the Insanity coach.
I know I've been trying to. I've managed to. I know the guy's, like I say, his work rate's crazy busy. I kind of meant to have him on the show at some point as part of 1PW month, but I just know the guy's constantly on the go. So trying to pin him down, trying to get him to reply to a message, I'm just like. But again, I know it's just guys, just absolutely. So it's just if he's on, he's on. If he's not, it's just, I totally understand. It's just the guy is just absolutely, as I say, smashing it, like either in the gym, training, in the ring. So yeah, fingers crossed. We do get Robbie on here at some point, but if we don't, card subject to change. So as you sort of said, but you also mentioned yourself, Robbie. Callum he's another guy that I think's kind of shone over the last few 1PW shows.
Yeah, man, absolutely killing it. And I mean, so we had the scramble at Doncaster Dome, and then we had a multi-man tag.
8-man.
Eight-man tag. So being able to wrestle Callum and then team with Callum, again, he's an absolute whiz kid, isn't he? He's so fast and so athletically gifted. Like either the man's got springs in his shoes or he's built like Zebedee, because the boy can fly. But also being in there with Luke Jacobs as well. I stood across the ring from Luke at both 1PW shows, and I can tell you now, like, boy, does he hit.
That clothesline looks...
He hits for home runs every single time, and never misses. Never misses. But yeah, it really is. It's a privilege to be in the ring with not only some established British guys, but some very, very established guys in professional wrestling as a whole, and kind of be riding the wave of the rising stars of British wrestling, and to be considered one of those myself.
Definitely.
It's insane.
But I think that's where, based on the previous two 1PW shows, they've kind of got that perfect balance where, they are bringing the big names over, to pull in the casual fans, but they are using the British talent so well as well for the diehard, British wrestling fans who know you guys. And I think obviously bringing in the imports, to use an older term, it just gets fresh faces on what you guys are doing. So as long as if I keep that balance, I think it's looking good for you. It can't be anything but good for you guys.
Yeah, and like seeing my face on Fight TV is an accolade in itself.
That's it. But I mean, obviously, I say Leo Rush Kaz. I mean, the previous show or previous two shows, Haskins has been RVD and Rhino. That's up in his name value. If he's on a show down the line that you're on, or vice versa, it just makes everybody involved look that just much more legit, and much more.
Yeah, it really adds credibility to British wrestling.
But yeah, man, it's good. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I'll be there. You mentioned, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit, where you mentioned Billy Kidman being a hidden gem. I'm going to tap back to the pure grit kind of thing, where I could kind of see you being a Dean Malenko in a pure grit match.
Yeah, no, I can see that myself. I feel like I've, as I say, certainly as a kid watched enough early doors WCW stuff to have got a few tricks up my sleeve, and I feel like I can go toe to toe and tango with the best of them, and I know a hold or two.
Yeah, but yeah, Malenko for me was one of the underappreciated guys of the cruiserweight. Like I say, they raised Eddie's and everybody got a lot of love, but I think Malenko got very much overlooked.
Yeah.
So I will. I'm going to start wrapping up because I think we're getting close to the hour mark. I don't want to. I know it's late on. You mentioned tag team wrestling beforehand? You're mainly doing single stuff now. Have you still got it in the back of your head that are you still looking at the tag team divisions, or are you looking, or are you just focused purely on, is it a singles run now?
So interestingly enough, I've always loved tag wrestling because I feel like tag team wrestling in itself is an absolute art form. Two of the best in the country, again, that I feel like don't get the praise or the shine that they should do at the minute, are Reese and Rogan, two lads from Hull. And if you like old school, hard hitting sort of brutal tag matches, sort of essence of, you know, Vader, things like that. Like it really is. They're two minds in one. It really is a spectacle to watch. They're two lads that do tag wrestling brilliantly. But when I was a kid, I watched wrestling for the Hardy Boys. I watched wrestling for Edge and Christian, for the Dudleys. That TLC match always has such a special place in my heart.
Which one? Which one was the best one?
I liked TLC 2. Yeah, TLC 2 was definitely my cup of tea.
That WrestleMania 17 one wasn't it? Was that? And then the third one was WrestleMania 18, if I remember.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
But yeah, interestingly enough, I do keep my eye on what's going on and the circles that we move in, sort of within the scene. And there's a promotion in Oxford that I've just worked for this weekend, just gone, called United Wrestling.
Okay.
And they're a smashing little company. They run out of a brewery, so it's got a real like punk rock DIY vibe to it. But yeah, they're super switched on. But I had the pleasure of wrestling Kira Chimera. So it was the first time that I know it's kind of a bit of a dirty word at the minute, is intergender wrestling.
Right.
But it's the first time that I'd wrestled a female wrestler. So I was excited and I was hyped for that. She's a French lass that has been making waves in the UK since post-COVID. So I got to wrestle Kira, and we seemed to click. Something in there seemed to, whether it was like the fact that we're both a little bit more punk rock and switched on than your average sort of blue eye baby face. There's a little bit of depth to that. So I think if we were moving forward and thinking about maybe doing some tag stuff, there's definitely an option there of potentially like me and Kira Chimera doing something along the line, maybe teaming up and taking on your Alexis Falcon and Charles Crowley, maybe taking on your Adonis Payne and Artemis. And I think there's with her being French as well, there's also doors to go and explore her hometown promotion of Rick's, because they seem to be doing a lot of great things at the minute. And I think I just want to wrestle wherever, whenever, as much as I can, which brings me on to some quite exciting news. There's a company based in Austria that have been in contact with me, and I'll be making my overseas debut for a company that I don't know if I'll name them because I don't want to drop them in it before they put out the announcement. But there's a certain promotion that's based in Austria that are taking me over there. So Scotty Rawk becomes internationally known.
Wow, that's awesome. Well done, dude. But again, I mean, it's like as we talked about, somebody putting a belt on you and stuff like that. A promotion from another country, reaching out to you and be like, you know what, we've looked in the UK, we want some UK talent. We want you, kind of thing. It's another box to be ticked. That goes to show how far you've come on, and just you're ticking all the boxes.
100%. Every booking is a compliment. Every booking is like a gift almost, because at the end of the day, there aren't many people that get to do what we do, and there aren't many people that do what we do as well as we do it. Because if there were, then professional wrestling wouldn't be special. You wouldn't pay tickets to come and see me. You wouldn't pay tickets to come and see me in tiny little pants on a Friday and Saturday night, would you? But yeah, it really is like the fact that there's a promotion that are willing to like fly me out and bring me across, and hopefully that's just going to happen more and more and more, because I want this to be my career. I want this to be my main Like, this is my goal, this is my passion. And they say if you work a job that you love, then you never truly work a day in your life.
That's it. So yeah, man, fingers crossed, because I think you're well on your way. I don't see a reason why it's not going to happen. I'm going to end with this little bit of fantasy booking as well. I mentioned you mentioned Punk a few times now, like obviously alternative and stuff. Actually, I'm going to delete what I said before about the pure grit side of things with TGW. Sean Only's been running his mouth, obviously, the last few True Grit shows, doing open challenges. I think last time he offered somebody £1,000, put £1,000 on the table. I want to see Scotty Rawk be the one to finally shut up Sean Only.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting concept. I think there's certainly a mix of styles there. I know Sean Only has a martial arts sort of background as well. Yeah, I think that could certainly be an interesting combination of hard hitting, high flying, fast paced action.
That's it, and as well, because obviously the whole thing about Sean is, the whole sort of having a little bit of a pop at the new generation and X, Y, and Z. And dude, I think you are one of the faces, obviously, of the new generation, the current generation. That's setting the scene on fire, kind of thing. So for me, if I just obviously I'm not booking, but if the best part about wrestling is being able to fantasy book. And I think that to me would be a fantasy match. I want to see you against Sean Only.
Definitely. And you never know, like, at the end of the day, things and tools like Twitter, like Instagram, like Facebook, in this modern age, we are all connected so well. So if you want to see something or you like what you see, tweet about it, post about it, put something up, because just blindly putting something into the ethos is quite literally throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And sometimes they are hidden gems that come out of the woodwork. And I think, definitely, it's definitely a good tool to have.
I'm going to give you a prime example of that, and then I'll wrap it up. But anybody knows me knows I'm a massive comic book geek. I love comic book stuff. And what you've just said, the best example of that I can give is, I think somebody did some fan art a few years ago of the dude from the American Office as Reed Richards. If they ever remade the Fantastic Four, boom, Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse, the guy's cast as Reed Richards, just on the back of some fan art from a few years ago.
Legit, it's insane, isn't it? We are all so connected in the modern world, and obviously I know sometimes that can be abused, because sometimes you log onto Twitter and it really, really does feel like a cesspit.
Yeah.
But at its core,
if you can filter through the grime, there are diamonds in the rough out there, and there are people who just want to be positive and spread the word and big people up.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Right, talking to socials, plug yours, dude, and I will let you get on. I will stop queuing your ear off. So if you want to obviously follow Scotty on the socials, please do. I highly recommend it. But yeah, what's your socials, dude?
So you can find the Lost Boy of British Wrestling on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and I simply at Scotty Rawk. That's SCOTTYRAWK. But yeah, please give me a follow. Please drop a line. Currently, I am running pre-sales for my latest merch. So please, don't be shy and slide into my DMs. Order a t-shirt. And currently, I'm running a free signed 8x10 poster with every t-shirt order before 1PW. 1PW is going to be the cut-off of pre-sales.
Nice. Are you going to have on sale at 1PW? If anybody, yes, awesome. I may venture over and after have a word and may pick one up myself. So
no worries, bro.
It's been awesome, mate. Like I said, I've been waiting ages to have you on here and have a chat. So I think kind of just scraped the the top of the iceberg kind of thing. There's a lot more I kind of wanted to talk about, but I am very conscious of time, so I will let you get on. I will get on as well, and hopefully we'll chat again down the line, or at future shows. I'll come over and say hi at True Grit when I see you.
Yeah, man, no worries. I'd love to come back. I'd love to chat your head off some more, because I feel, as you say, we're literally just the tip of the iceberg with this. But yeah, hopefully in the not so distant future we'll be back chatting.
Yeah. Just because I noticed a smile when I made reference to the comic book stuff, so I think there's some stuff there to be talked about. So that's I think you're like-minded. So, dude, I will let you get gone, and thank you for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe, share, and do what we need to do.